The impact of the global crisis, obviously, on Saudi Arabia's economy is my first question. What's your analysis?
We cannot claim we are fenced out from the rest of the world and we are immune from what's happening around us. But we are certainly the least affected, and we have launched various initiatives to maintain the momentum and the growth in the economy, including increasing the government spending by 19% in 2009. And His Majesty the King announced in the G20 summit in Washington a $400 billion investment in infrastructure over the coming 5 years.
You mentioned a $400 billion infrastructure program, and one of the centerpieces of King Abdullah's vision for growth in Saudi Arabian modernization is the economic cities. Let's talk about that a little bit. What is the philosophy of these cities?
The philosophy of these cities is to develop economic drivers, an engine of growth in the less developed regions within the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. By 2020, we expect these cities to contribute in the tune of additional $100 billion to the Saudi GDP. They would have contributed by then to the creation of no less than 1 million new jobs. We need to introduce every now and then yet another economic driver, another engine of growth to maintain the growth in the GDP and ensure that the growth in the GDP is always twice as much as the growth in population.
I was in Jeddah recently and I was talking about CAKE, the King Abdullah Economic City. That's the first one that you're working on, about 80 or 90 kilometers from Jeddah.
Right.
We've heard that MR, the private contractor, is slowing down or cancelling some aspects of that.
Not at all. Amr is a shareholder of King Abdullah Economic City Development Company, and they have less than 25%. We have millions of shareholders in this company, and this company is highly capitalized, and they are very much on track. And the beauty of what's happening around us today, that all the challenges facing these economic cities 6 months back have disappeared. For instance, we were suffering from skyrocketing prices of building materials. That challenge has disappeared. We were suffering from the lack of construction capacity, lack of equipment supply, lack of human capital and talents. All these challenges have disappeared. So we are taking advantage today of what's happening around us in the world to fast-track the development of these economic cities, because our cost structure has been subsidized at least by 30 to 40%.
Okay. And what is the unique selling points of the first and the other economic cities in Saudi Arabia? Because after all, we're living in a world where we're seeing competition for special economic zones.
We are only interested in FDI that is associated with know-how transfer, and FDI for investment opportunities that are correlated to our core competences and competitive advantages. A typical businessman at a time of economic slowdown would pay attention to cost cutting. If you are in the energy intensive industries, one way to reduce your cost is to relocate your production to the most cost effective production location on the face of the earth for energy intensive industries, which is Saudi Arabia.
Speaking of energy, the energy related sectors may be those which have the greatest appeal for you, if it isn't straight FDI you're looking for, but know-how, technology transfer, and cooperation on intellectual property. Areas like plastics or aluminum. Are these priorities for these cities? Is that the idea of the infrastructure?
Absolutely. We have picked 10 industries that would like to be either number 1 or 2 by 2020. Plastics, for instance. Today our global market share is a modest 1%. Although we are the producers of the main raw materials, resins, polymers, and this is an energy-intensive industry. So our target is to hit 15% global market share by 2020. That means doubling the conversion capacity of polymers to finished plastic products on an annual basis.
You recently bought GE Plastics, or one of your companies bought GE Plastics.
Yes, SABIC did.
Will there be a series of acquisitions in order to achieve this, or do you wish to bring companies into Saudi Arabia?
We encourage the private sector of Saudi Arabia, like SABIC, to go after strategic assets globally that would complement their value proposition and would complement the value chain. We need market access, we need patents, we need human capital. So international acquisitions for our private sector companies would definitely add value.